This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila in Thailand. Hello, Esther.
Hi there, Alma, and good afternoon to all our viewers. I'm Esther Odanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The Food and Drug Administration has granted a compassionate special permit for the COVID-19 treatment drug Bexovid, the first generic version of Pfizer's Paxlovid.
A child was killed and 6 others wounded after a bomb exploded on a public bus in the insurgency-plagued southern Philippines.
Nearly 16,000, or rather 1,600 tons of teak from Myanmar were exported to American companies last year, circumventing U.S. sanctions imposed to deny the junta millions of dollars in profits.
And onlookers were in a festive mood as officials of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, assisted by the Philippine Eagle Foundation personnel, released a female Philippine eagle back into the wild.
First in our news, here in the country, the Food and Drug Administration has granted a compassionate special permit for the COVID-19 treatment drug Bexovid, the first generic version of Pfizer's Paxlovid. Bexovid may be used for individuals with mild to moderate symptoms of COVID-19, ages 12 years old and above. It can also reduce the risks of hospitalization and deaths by 88 to 89% when taken within 3 to 5 days from the onset of symptoms. Let's listen in.
Inaprubahan na ng Food and Drug Administration or FDA ang compassionate special permit ng Bexovid, ang first generic version ng Pfizer Paxlovid. Ano po ang implikasyon nito? Magiging mas mura ang gamutan at ma-access ang gamot na ito sa DOH at government hospitals. Mapabawasan ng Bexovid ang risk ng hospitalization or death by 89% kung may bibigay sa pasyente sa loob ng unang 3 araw ng sintomas.
At ito'y unang nakita po at na-examine at na-research doon sa Pfizer sa USA, at nakita nila sa data ho nila sa lahat ng mga pasyenteng nabigyan po nito, nag-reduce ang kanilang hospitalization and death to about 90%. Ang unang antiviral kasi na lumabas sa market, sa merkado, ay yung molnupiravir. Isa din yung antiviral drug na ginawa ng Merck. Pero ngayon sa kakalabas ngayon ng mga resulta, mga 30 to 40% ang kanyang reduction in hospitalization and death. So itong Bexcovid ngayon, ito yung trade name ng nirmatrelvir, o sa US ito yung Paxlovid. Itong antiviral na puto, ito yung may bigay sa mga pasyenteng with mild and moderate, lalong-lalo na sa mga high risk, no? Kasi talagang bababa ang kanyang hospitalization and even death. Ngayon, itong Paxlovid to be given in 5 days at nasa isang package nga yan sa itong Bexlovid or Paxlovid for the next 5 days. Ito ay talagang makakabigay ng medyo pag-asa sa ating 2022, lalong-lalo na itong pag-harap natin sa COVID-19. At least meron na tayong mga gamot aside from the vaccination that we are pursuing.
Paxlovid was first authorized for use in the United States. The treatment is a combination of two tablets, namely nirmatrelvir and ritonavir. It is taken twice a day for 5 days. Nirmatrelvir inhibits the SARS-CoV-2 protein to stop the virus from replicating. Meanwhile, ritonavir helps the nirmatrelvir to remain in the body for a longer period at higher concentrations.
Only healthcare workers employed in hospitals are allowed to have shorter quarantine and under extreme circumstances, Malacanang said on Tuesday. This after some airline companies requested to shorten the quarantine and isolation protocols for flight crew. Based on Interagency Task Force for Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases rules, Acting Presidential Spokesperson Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nobrales said health workers are allowed to follow shorter quarantine and isolation protocols as determined by their respective hospitals' Infection Prevention and Control Committee. Let's listen in.
Basahin niyo yung resolution, yung latest resolution ng IATF. Nakalagay po doon na, for instance, no, for those who are isolated dahil nga meron silang mild or asymptomatic na COVID. So meron tayong rules on number of days for isolation, no? Shinorten lang natin under extreme circumstances, but always po, if it is recommended and with clearance from the hospital. Kasi yung mga hospitals, meron po silang tinatawag na Hospital Infection Prevention and Control Committees. So it is these committees ng hospitals that will determine kung pwede bang ma-shorten. For instance, yung sa naka-quarantine dahil na-expose. So it is the hospitals, the health experts in those hospitals, those committees na mag-assess dun sa mga na-exposed na healthcare workers kung fit na ba sila to be brought back in circulation.
Itong Omicron, even with the spike in cases, are mild. And they found out that because of this high transmissibility, ang incubation period niya is about 2 to 3 days lang. Compared yun sa original kasi original Wuhan virus, COVID-19, yun ang mas mahaba yung incubation period, 5 to 7 days. Kaya matagal mong kailangan ma-isolate at ma-quarantine. Now, itong pag natin sa healthcare workers, alam natin kasi 93% na kasi bakunado. And they are protected in a way against the virus, especially this Omicron for hospitalization and even death. And ang reason naman na naging 5 days yan for the, especially for the asymptomatics, is because we believe that on the 5th day, if you're vaccinated, the viral load is very low, and you are no longer, you can no longer transmit the virus to, or you are not contagious. So ito yung talagang dahilan kung bakit inuna natin ang healthcare workers, kasi madali sila ma-monitor ng kanilang infection and control committee dyan sa hospital. So they're being monitored, and besides, they are also fully vaccinated, 93% even with booster. Now, ang gagawin po namin, nag-propose na rin ng DOH na i-streamline natin to sa general public, because para to harmonize the isolation and quarantine protocols, we would like it's proposed by the Department of Health. And of course, this proposal will be sent to the IATF for consideration and approval na mag-isolate na ho tayo once, kasi 60% naman natin ngayon dito sa bansa, Omicron. And basically, we can actually isolate the asymptomatic cases for, especially if you're vaccinated, for 5 days, similar to the healthcare workers.
The Octa Research Group on Tuesday described the COVID-19 situation in the NCR as severe outbreak, with the average daily attack rate, or ADAR, rising to 89.42% from January 4 to the 10th. In its latest report, the Octa Research Group said NCR's current ADAR is above the threshold for a severe outbreak, which is greater than 75 per 100,000 per individual, or 100,000 individuals per day. The region's ADAR for the week of December 28, 2021 to January 3 this year was only 12.71. Its recent 7-day positivity rate increased to 48% from 20% for the previous week. Positivity rate is the percentage of COVID tests performed which turned out positive in a certain area or region. It added the hospital bed occupancy in the NCR has increased to 57% from 27% in the previous week and is likely to exceed 70% next week.
Meanwhile, here's an update from the Thai government regarding Thailand's COVID-19 situation. Reporting from Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, here's Mr. Natapanu Nopakun, the Deputy Director General at the Information Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Thailand. Watch this.
So there have been increases in the new confirmed cases, especially in Bangkok, as the Omicron variant is still on the rise. So home isolation with close monitoring and evaluation by the competent health authority still is the main method for those of treatment for those who are infected. Now, of course, we have to note that the symptoms of Omicron and Delta variant are quite different. Omicron is more asymptomatic. There might be no symptoms, but for those who are infected, as much as the symptoms that we found in the Delta variant. So a recap on the adjustment of measures. We talked about this on Friday. There had been considerable queries on social media seeking clarification on the latest set of the measures. So just to recap the adjustment as follows. The CCSA General Meeting last Friday adjusted the zoning categories for disease control measures that took effect since the 9th of January, yesterday. So 69 provinces, almost all the provinces in Thailand, are now categorized as controlled areas or the orange zone, with the exception of 8 provinces which belong to the pilot tourism or sandbox areas or the blue zone. So these 8 provinces, Bangkok, Kanchanaburi, Krabi, Chonburi, Nonthaburi, Pathum Thani, Phang Nga, Phuket, including some districts in other provinces in the pilot tourism areas. So the CCSA has asked for the kind cooperation of all entities and agencies to implement work from home measures until at least the 31st of January 2022. Entertainment venues, just now Dr. Sumani recapped this as well. Entertainment venues such as pubs, bars, karaokes have been allowed to apply for permits to operate temporarily as restaurants from the 16th of January, subject to the approval of the competent authorities. And the venues are required to strictly exercise the COVID-free setting measures.
The Ministry of Public Health is pleased to inform that the More Prom application is now available for foreigners residing in Thailand. Those who are vaccinated at least 1 dose of COVID vaccine can now view their vaccine-related information on the More Prom application, which is available on both App Store and Play Store. This effort is made possible by the Department of Disease Control and WHO Thailand office. The video demonstration is also available in 4 languages.
Back here in the country, the Department of Health noted an increase in the number of incidental COVID cases in Metro Manila, or those who were admitted to hospitals for other health conditions, but they were later found positive for COVID-19. Here's Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere.
Ikalima, nais po naming ibalita na nakakakita rin po tayo ng pagbaba ng mga severe and critical cases. Ngunit hindi po ito indication para mapanatag ang karamihan dahil tumataas naman po ang kaso ng mga mild at asymptomatic cases. Pinapaalalahanan pa rin po natin ang publiko na magdoble ingat ang lahat at patuloy na ugaliin mag-comply sa minimum public health standards upang maiwasan po natin ang transmission ng virus at ang mutation po nito. Pang-anim, Dahil sa mataas na vaccination rates sa National Capital Region, dalawang klase ng COVID-19 patients ang nakikita po nating naia-admit sa ating mga ospital. Una, ang mga admitted dahil sa COVID-19, kagaya ng mga may sample diagnosis na may COVID-19 pneumonia. Habang pangalawa, ang mga pasyenteng ina-admit para sa ibang kondisyon, ngunit incidentally, nagpo-positibo po sila sa COVID-19. Ilan sa mga halimbawa ng kasong incidental or incidental COVID-19 ay ang mga na-admit dahil sa acute appendicitis, acute coronary syndrome, CVD infarct, intracranial hemorrhage, trauma from vehicular crash na bagamat inadmit po sila sa ospital dahil sa mga nasabing kondisyon, upon admission naman, sila po ay nagpositibo sa COVID-19. Pampito, mula po sa pattern ng Delta at nung nagkaroon po tayo ng pagtaas ng kaso dahil sa holidays, makikitang iba na ang pattern ng COVID-19. Batse sa datos ng Philippine General Hospital, malaking proportion po ng mga pasyente ay incidental COVID-19 patients. Ang ibig sabihin po nito ay ang pasyente ay magpapa-admit sa ibang dahilan, ngunit upon taking the RT-PCR test in the hospital, makikita po ng ating mga healthcare worker na sila po ay positibo rin sa COVID-19. Kung makikita po natin ang graph noong September 5 to 18, 2021 na maiugnay sa Delta increase in cases, 53.9% ang admitted for COVID-19 habang 46.1% naman po ang incidental COVID-19 patients. Pero kung titignan naman po natin ang graph ng ating pagtaas ng kaso ngayong nag-holidays na nakapaloob sa mga petsang December 25, 2021 hanggang January 7 of 2022, makikitang 88.7% ang incidental COVID-19 patients, halos doble po nung nakaraang nagkaroon tayo ng Delta situation.
Meanwhile, Transportation Secretary Arthur Dugade on Wednesday ordered the enforcement of a no vaccination, no ride, or no entry policy in the National Capital Region, or NCR, in line with the President Rodrigo Duterte's order to restrict the movement of people who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 in Metro Manila. In a department order or DO, Dugade said, the enforcement of no vaccination, no ride policy would be in effect while the NCR is under alert level 3 or higher, as determined by the Interagency Task Force for Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. Following the President's order, the Metro Manila Council, which is composed of all mayors of NCR, also passed a resolution urging the local government units of Metro Manila to pass their respective ordinances on the enhanced restrictions on movement of unvaccinated persons. Dugade said the DO takes effect immediately after publication in the official gazette or a newspaper of general circulation and the submission of a copy to the Office of National Administrative Register UP Law Center. According to the DO, a person is considered fully vaccinated against COVID-19 2 weeks after receiving their second dose in a 2-dose vaccination series or a single-dose vaccine. Exempted from the no vaccination, no ride policy are persons with medical conditions that prevent their full COVID-19 vaccination as shown by a duly signed medical certificate with the name and contact details of their doctor, and persons who will buy essential goods and services such as food, water, medicine, medical devices, public utilities, energy, work, and medical and dental necessities, as shown by a duly issued barangay health pass or other proof to justify the travel. Under the order, violations of the policy are considered violations of applicable general safety and health provisions under any concession or service agreements, authority or permits to operate public transportation, and other similar instruments.
Going back to Thailand, the country's Queen Sirikit National Institute of Child Health has accepted 59 young children infected with COVID-19 for medical treatment and care since the outbreak of the Omicron variant, according to Director General of the Medical Services Department, Dr. Somsak Aksil. According to the Thai PBS World, 46 of the children have been placed in home or community facilities under the care of the institute because they exhibited mild or no symptoms, he said, as he offered an assurance that all the children are being being cared for properly. Referring to 3 symptomatic babies, Dr. Somsak said that their condition is improving satisfactorily. The director of the institute, Dr. Adisai Patatang, said they have 70 beds as well as negative pressure rooms to accommodate infected young children. ASEAN in Focus will be right back after this short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome back. Going back to the Philippines, a child was killed and 6 others wounded after a bomb exploded on a public bus in the insurgency-plagued southern Philippines on Tuesday, authorities said, but no group has claimed responsibility. Police said the explosion happened as the bus was traveling along a highway near Cotabato City on Mindanao Island, a haven for multiple armed groups ranging from communist insurgents to Islamist militants. The bomb was inside the bus at the end part where there were a lot of people sitting, said Chief Master Sergeant Randy Hampak, police spokesman in Alyosan Town. A 5-year-old boy died while 6 others were wounded in the blast that shattered the back windows, Hampak said. The wounded included a 5-month-old baby and 3-year-old child. A police report said one of the victims saw a male passenger leave baggage on the bus when he disembarked and it later exploded. Regional military spokesman Lieutenant Colonel John Baldomar said no group had admitted carrying out a presumed attack. Manila signed a peace pact with nation's largest rebel group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, on 2014, ending their deadly armed rebellion. But smaller bands of Muslim fighters opposed to the peace deal remain, including militants professing allegiance to the Islamic State group. Communist rebels also operate in the region.
6 inmates were killed and 33 wounded during a fight in an overcrowded jail here in the country, according to authorities, in the second such incident in as many weeks. The deadly brawl happened on Monday between rival gangs at Caloocan City Jail and the National Capital Region Bureau of Jail Management and Penology spokesman Xavier Solda said. An investigation was underway into the cause of the violence that Solda said started as a fight between two inmates before others joined the fray. It's not clear what weapons were used. Solda said a ban on family visits since the start of the pandemic may have been a factor. Security has been beefed up to maintain the order in the facility.
The United States on Monday called a prison sentence for Myanmar's ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi an affront to justice and renewed a call for her release. Watch this.
The Burmese military's regime unjust arrests, conviction and sentencing of Aung San Suu Kyi is an affront to justice and the rule of law. We call on the regime to immediate release Aung San Suu Kyi and all those unjustly detained, including other democratically elected leaders.
A Myanmar junta court on Monday convicted Aung San Suu Kyi of 3 criminal charges, sentencing her to 4 years in prison in the latest in a slew of cases against the ousted civilian leader. A source with knowledge of the case told AFP the 76-year-old was found guilty of 2 charges related to illegally importing and owning. Junta spokesman Major General Sam Minton confirmed the verdicts and sentences and told AFP Suu Kyi would remain under house arrest while other cases against her proceed. Beside Monday's cases, she is also facing multiple counts of corruption, each of which is punishable by 15 years in jail and of violating the Official Secrets Act.
Nearly 1,600 tons of teak from Myanmar were exported to American companies last year, circumventing U.S. sanctions imposed to deny the junta millions of dollars in profits, according to an activist group on Tuesday. Among the most popular type of grown in Myanmar wood is teak, long favored by shipbuilders and furniture makers for its durability in wet environments. Teak imports to the United States were supposed to be barred under targeted sanctions, but activist group Justice for Myanmar found that nearly 1,600 tons of timber reached American companies between February and the end of November last year. Justice for Myanmar called on the U.S. government to ban all Myanmar timber imports. It is likely that even more teak is being exported to the U.S. via third countries such as China, according to the report. Now, according to the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, a global monitoring group, Myanmar received almost $100 million in revenues from taxes and royalties on the timber trade in the 2017 to 2018 financial year, while revenues for the entire forestry industry totaled $322 million. Besides wood, resource-rich Myanmar is replete with jade and gold mines, where the revenues have long been overseen by military-affiliated enterprises that funnel profits towards the powerful army. The United States imposed sanctions on Myanmar's military and its affiliated companies, including Myanmar Timber Enterprises, which manages timber sales across the country.
In other news, the Commission on Elections is set to come out with a validation report on the alleged hacking of its server before the end of the week. In a radio interview on Tuesday, Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez said they already relayed the matter to their concerned departments to look into. The poll official issued a statement after an article published by Manila Bulletin on Monday claimed that hackers were able to download 60 gigabytes of data from the Comelec server, which could compromise the conduct of 2022 polls. The article claimed that among the downloaded files were network diagrams, internet protocol addresses, list of all privileged users, domain administrator credentials, passwords, domain policies, access to ballot handling dashboard, quick response code of the Bureau of Canvassers with login passwords. Jimenez expressed doubt that some of the files cited were indeed hacked, particularly PINs, since he noted such data do not exist yet. He added that defenses of their online systems have been hardened after it was hacked in 2016, which led to a data leak that compromised personal information of an estimated 55 million registered voters. The incident prompted Comelec to close down all its online applications and to have the Department of Science and Technology host its website. Jimenez reiterated they will consider legal actions against the people behind the said article if the alleged hacking turned out to be false. Alma and I will be back after this short break.
Show na parang best friend mo.
Binigyan ko talaga ng motor. Para sa'yo talaga to.
Ang sarap kasama kahit wala kayong ginagawa kundi magtawanan.
Ano ba yung sikreto nyo dito? Ba't ang sarap lagi ng luto nyo? Palagi kang libre, kaya masarap yan.
Tuloy-tuloy ang excitement sa ating larong Say What?
Smart words.
Ay, naku!
Sir, bakit ngayon lang naman kayo lumabas? Sorry po, sorry.
Hindi, huwag na ho kayong mag-sorry. I just want you to be better next time.
Funniest Nakaball Videos!
Welcome back. Back here in the country, low-cost carrier Cebu Pacific canceled 24 domestic and international flights today, citing workforce shortage. Affected passengers may rebook or refund their tickets or store the value in a travel fund until 30 days from the original flight schedule. The airline said because the situation is still fluid, those with flights until January 23 may also opt to refund their ticket or rebook their flight for travel within 60 days. They can also store the amount to a travel fund valid for 2 years.
Meanwhile, with 424 out of 426 votes in favor, the National Assembly approved the resolution on Socio-Economic Recovery and Development Program on January 11 in Hanoi. The resolution aims to revitalize and develop production and business activities, promote growth momentums, strive for 6.5 to 7% annual GDP growth rate in the 2021 to 2025 period. Regarding tax, the resolution slashes value-added tax by 2% to 8% for groups of goods and services currently being applied the 10% VAT rate, except for telecommunication services, information technology, financial activities, banking, securities, insurance, and real estate business. The lawmakers agreed to put aside 176 trillion Vietnamese dong from the central budget for development investment in modernizing grassroots healthcare system, regional disease control centers, central-level hospitals, and other public investment projects in 2022 and 2023. Vietnam reported economic growth for 2021 of just 2.58% on Wednesday, beating a 30-year low set last year as pandemic continues to take a toll. The communist state has long been a success story among Asian economies, posting growth of 7% in 2019. But shutdowns caused by coronavirus have battered the export-reliant economy, sending GDP growth plunging to 2.91% in 2020, the lowest reported in 3 decades.
And the Philippine economy is expected to return to its 6 to 7% growth trajectory in 2022 after nearly 2 years of grappling with the pandemic, despite the threat of the Omicron variant, according to the investment banking arm of the Metro Bank Group. First Metro Investment Corporation, or FMIC, said this year's economic growth will be driven by sustained domestic demand, easing inflation, election expenditures, and accelerated government spending on infrastructure projects. MIC President Jose Patricio Dumlao said in a virtual briefing on Tuesday that the economy registered a 4.9% growth in the first 3 quarters of 2021, and the growth momentum likely spilled over in the fourth quarter given further economic reopening and easing mobility restrictions. He added business and consumer confidence are also cautiously positive given wider availability of vaccines and relaxation of lockdowns, quarantine measures, and mobility restrictions. University of Asia and the Pacific economist Dr. Victor Abola said the 6 to 7% GDP product or GDP projection this year will be led by the industry sector, both construction and manufacturing. Abola said services will still be the lagging sector as the pandemic measures hit hotels and restaurants.
Meanwhile, Asian equities rallied Wednesday, tracking a strong performance on Wall Street as Federal Reserve Chief Jerome Powell said he was determined to rein in a runaway inflation but pledged to maintain the healthy recovery in the world's top economy. Global markets have endured a torrid start to the year after minutes from the bank's December meeting revealed a hawkish tilt by officials spooked by months of stubbornly high price rises that many fear could hit consumers and ruin the growth rebound. They showed policymakers wanted to speed up their cycle of monetary tightening, including multiple interest rate hikes, some commentators saying for this year, and the shrinking of the bond holdings on the balance sheet, which help keep lending rates down. Traders have been worried by the prospect of an end to the ultra-loose policies, which have helped power a 2-year market rally and support the pandemic-hit economy. But Powell managed to soothe some of those fears Tuesday during his Senate reconfirmation hearing. Wall Street cheered with Nasdaq climbing more than 1%, having taken a severe hit recently as tech firms are more susceptible to higher borrowing rates. The gains extended into Asia with Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul, and Manila all up more than 1%. Shanghai, Sydney, Singapore, Thailand, and Jakarta also rose.
Esther and I will be back here on ASEAN in Focus right after this break. Stay tuned.
Sa kabila ng patuloy na pagbaba ng alert level sa Metro Manila,
sa gitna ng kabi-kabilang paalala sa mga magulang o guardian.
Matapos ang maghapong paghihintay,
mas matalas na pagtingin sa mga nangungunang balita.
Magdodoble kayo daw ngayon ang senador para ipakilala.
Tiniyak ng mga opisyal na mayroon silang sapat na supply ng bakuna na standby.
Magmamatyag at magiging mapanuri.
Maaaring magpa-drug test ang sinuman sa alinmang mga testing center.
Sa kaliwat ka ng batikos ng kanyang mga kritiko.
Mata ng Agila. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 6 hanggang alas 8 ng gabi. Dito lang sa Net 25.
Ating pong lipunan, hindi na mawawala ang mga samot-saring problema. Kaya tuloy lamang pong pag-aksyon, paghahanap ng solusyon. Lalo na ngayon, may maaasahan ka ng re-responde. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Welcome back. A landmine hunting rat that was awarded a gold medal for heroism for clearing ordnance from the Cambodian countryside has died, according to the charity. Magawa, a giant African pouched rat, originally from Tanzania, helped clear mines from about 225,000 square meters of land, the equivalent of 42 football pitches, over the course of his career. After detecting more than 100 landmines and other explosives, Magawa retired in June last year. Magawa passed away peacefully this weekend at the age of 8, according to the Belgian charity Apopo, which trained him in a statement. Apopo said Magawa was in good health and spent most of last week playing with his usual enthusiasm. But towards the weekend, he started to slow down, napping more and showing less interest in food in his last days, according to the charity. Apopo trained Magawa to detect the chemical compounds in explosives by rewarding him with tasty treats, his favorites being bananas and peanuts. He would alert deminers by scratching the earth after using his amazing sense of smell. Magawa was able to cover an area the size of a tennis court in 30 minutes, something that would take 4 days using a conventional metal detector. In September 2020, the rodent won the animal equivalent of Britain's highest civilian honor for bravery because of his uncanny knack for uncovering landmines and unexploded ordnance. Magawa was the first rat to receive a medal from British veterinary charity PDSA in the 77 years of the awards, joining an illustrious band of brave canines, felines, and even a pigeon. Millions of landmines were laid in Cambodia during the country's nearly 3-decade civil war, which ended in 1998, causing tens of thousands of casualties.
In other news, the BRP Ang Pangulo, or ACS-25, the presidential yacht, which has been repurposed into a floating hospitals shortly after the onslaught of Typhoon Odette last month, has so far provided medical aid to 842 patients in Siargao and the Dinagat Islands. Speaking to President Duterte during the Talk to the People Monday night, National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council Executive Director Ricardo Halad said the medical team on board the ship has also provided psychosocial first aid to persons severely affected or disturbed by the typhoon. Take a look.
Shown in the picture is the deployment of PRP Ang Pangulo, Mr. President. Ito ay dumating doon sa vicinity ng Siargao Islands noong December 22. And may dala-dala rin itong 25 tons of assorted cargos or relief goods. And ito ay nagsisilbi sa island ng Siargao at Dinagat Island. So palipat-lipat siya. Ang services na kanyang in-offer ay medical services at likewise psychosocial first aid. Meron din siyang binibigay na pagkain, hygiene kits at activity kits sa mga pasyente. As of now, it has served 842 patients from Dinagat Island and Siargao Island. Ang mga pasyente, Mr. President, ay dinadala sa kanya gamit ang mga maliliit na bangka.
The BRP Ang Pangulo is part of the 27-ship flotilla deployed by the Navy to help communities battered by Odette. The ship left Manila on December 19, carrying thousands of relief goods and other essential items intended for the affected population in Mindanao. Navy spokesperson Commander Benjo Negranza earlier said they use their resources to assist disaster-stricken areas to ensure the timely delivery of relief goods to the typhoon victims. Halad said the government has so far utilized 28 air assets of Air Force, 23 ships of the Coast Guard, and 31 flights of Boeing 737 cargo aircraft to help in transport of relief goods and supplies. Aside from this, 138 land transport and commercial sea vessels are also helping in the effort.
And finally, in our news, onlookers were in a festive mood as officials of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, assisted by the Philippine Eagle Foundation personnel, released a female Philippine eagle back into the wild. The eagle, named Godod, was released around 10:30 a.m. Monday in an upland barangay. Almario Caabay Jr. of the Provincial Environment and Resources Office, or PENRO, in Zamboanga, where it is located 550 meters above sea level. Dr. Ernest Duldulao, DENR's Regional Wildlife Rescue Center resident veterinarian, physically examined Godod before she was freed. She is healthy and ready to return to the wild, he said. And Godod, before flying back to the wild, stood for several minutes on the wooden release platform and looked back, giving spectators an opportunity to have their last look at the eagle and take photographs and video. The spectators included officials of the DENR, headed by Ronald Gadot, Assistant Regional Director for Technical Services, PEF personnel, and Godod Mayor Abel Matildo, among others. Dionisio Rago, head of the Community Environment and Natural Resources Office, or CENRO, Liloy, said the eagle was named after the town since the bird was accidentally trapped and captured by a Subanen farmer on December 5 last year in Sitio Maquinarias, Barangay Bunawan. Rago said the wildlife was confirmed as a Philippine eagle based on the photographs given to them by the Godod Municipal Tourism Office. He said they immediately sent a team and retrieved the wildlife in coordination with the 44th Infantry Battalion on December 16 at the height of Typhoon Odette. The eagle, which sustained a superficial injury on her left wing, was placed in a cage for rehabilitation at Rago's office, guided by their veterinarian and the PEF. Godod, while under rehabilitation, was fed daily by only forest ranger one forest ranger named Gersel Raffles to limit her interaction with humans. And daily, she consumed 1/4 kilo of meat. Ronald Gadot, Assistant Regional Director for Technical Services, said the area where the eagle was caught indicated that the place was rich in biodiversity, as the forest was vast and intact. Gadot said the Philippine eagle is territorial and the span of their territory is at least 10,000 hectares of forest. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Esther, for keeping me company today here on ASEAN in Focus.
Thank you also, Alma. But before we go,
yes,
let's greet a very happy birthday, one of our technical assistants, always assisting us here in Zoom meeting. Happy birthday, Kuya Joven de la Cruz.
Oh, yes!
Yes, it's celebrating birthday today. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian region. Thank you for joining us today in ASEAN in Focus. I'm Esra Odanga from ABC Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Kuya Joven. We will wait for your pancit and your ice cream. Thank you very much for joining us here on ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Stay in the news because we live in interesting times.
Napapansin ba ninyo lumiliwanag ang mundo pag magkasama tayo?